Hello, beautiful. How are you today? Welcome to another Thursday Talk live with me, Suzanna Kaye, Professional Organizer. So glad to have you here. I see that Rita has already hopped on. Welcome, Rita. So good to see you. As you have on, let me know where you are, like where you're joining me from and who you are so I can see who's here. So today we are talking about getting your family to help. Oh, and Rita just says, hi, Susanna and Stephanie. Thank you for sending these links and such before sessions. It's so helpful and such a time saver. Yay. That's what I want. I want easy. I want time saving. I want like super quick for you to find what you need and get it. So I'm so happy that that's useful for you. I love that. I see Brenda's here from Wellsville, Pennsylvania. Welcome. And Sue from Texas. Fantastic. It's good to see you guys again. I love seeing you each week. All right. So like I mentioned, today we are talking about how to get your family or others that like friends, finding other resources to help more. We're focusing mostly on family. If you are a caregiver, then make sure to join me tonight. This is Thursday, December 9th, tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time. I'm doing a webinar on caregiving and organizing, how to make progress and keep it all together as a caregiver. So if you are a full-time or caregiver, or you're working full-time and trying to be a caregiver as well, this is going to be a really good webinar for how to find more time, how to get your own stuff done, relieve some of the pressure, keep it all together, all the tools, the resources, the mindsets, and the tricks. So join me for that if you are a caregiver. And we talk not only about getting family to help, because we don't always have family that either can help, or we might not even have family available to help. But I talk about some other ways to get help as well, because I know you caregivers, my goodness, you guys work hard. You work really, really hard. So you deserve some good stuff. Hey, Peg, good to see you. And Corinne is here. Welcome, welcome. So with the topic of getting your family to help more, which is what we'll focus on more during this Thursday talk, like I said, the webinar is going to be more for the caregiving side of it. I do have a free download again this week. So this download it's a general note-taking download for the Thursday talks. And whenever we don't have a specific worksheet, I will share this one again. This will be available until a little bit before next week's Thursday talk. So if you don't grab it before then, it will be gone, but at least this one will come up periodically throughout the year. The other ones, they don't come back up again. So hopefully you're watching all the Thursday talks and grabbing the downloads during that week before they disappear. But you can head over to suzannakaye.live /get-the-Thursday-talks-worksheet. I know that's long. I also put it in the description for you. So that way you can find the link nicely and easily and be able to click it. And that will help you take notes. Hey, I see BT is here. Awesome. Beverly, good to see ya. All right, so getting your family to help. You know, we all have different family structures, different family dynamics. Some families are more helpful than others. Some people don't have this option, but a lot of these tricks could probably help you with finding general help as well, and just the emotional side of this. But if you do have a family that you would like to get a little bit more on your side and helping you out with organizing, keeping things together, staying on top of things, getting all of that help more, then these are some of the ways to, without forcing it and nagging all the time, some ways to get some more help. So when you have a family, whether they are extremely resistant or if they really want to help and they just don't know how, the first thing is just try asking for what you need. Now, asking for what you need won't always work, but there are some ways to ask for what you need in a way that's more effective than others. So first off, when you are asking for what you need, you want to make sure to communicate clearly what that is. A lot of times, I know for me as well, our tendency is to, say, can you just help out more around the house? I just need more help. I'm tired of doing it all myself. That's great. That's the emotion that you're feeling, but that's not very clear and specific. So if they did want to help, they probably aren't sure exactly how, and they might be trying to help, but you can't tell because they're doing things that they think are helpful that don't actually solve the problem at all because you weren't specific and clear about what it is you need. So when you're asking for what you need, whether you're a caregiver or it's just general, hey, family, please help out, be super specific. So say, hey, honey, like I've said to Moose Pie, and he's great. He really wants to help. And when he knows how to help, he can be amazing at it. But this is one right here, communicating clearly. If I don't communicate clearly, he will guess wrong, and it's my fault, not his. So I will say, hey, Moose Pie, that's Jeff, my husband. When you make toast in the morning and you leave all the crumbs on the counter, would you mind just quickly wiping the crumbs off of the counter? So that way I don't have to do it later and it looks nicer and we don't attract bugs. So by being super specific about how he can help, that will help him be able to achieve that better. Sometimes you might even need to tell them there are wipes under the sink that you can use, or I simply take my hand to brush them off in my other hand and throw them in the trash. You can even give them that type of level of clarity for how to succeed at this and show them it's super easy. Now, they'll probably forget sometimes, but that is okay. At least they know exactly how they can help you. And when you're communicating, a lot of times it helps to explain why. There are times where I've asked for something like, hey, Jeff, would you mind when you load the dishwasher, can you put my favorite cup and lid together at the top? And he never understood why. So he would forget to do it because it seemed so silly and like I was just being very picky. One day I remembered to ask him and tell him why. I said, because first thing in the morning, I'm really tired and I want to find my cup. And sometimes I'm trying to find the cup and the lid is tiny and it's buried under a bowl or something like that. So it just gets a little frustrating. If they were together, it'd make it so much easier for me. Well, once he understood, that's not something that he would have thought of. Once he understood, then he was very happy to try to remember to put the cup and the lid next to each other, which was such a help. So be super clear. And when you are communicating, remember to remove emotion from it. I know how it is. I do this too. When you're overwhelmed, when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when you feel hurt and like you're not being supported, it can be very hard to communicate without emotion. But if you come at it from an angry point or a frustrated point or a blame point, they're not going to hear what you're asking for as well. They're going to hear the judgment and they're probably going to shut down or get defensive and their emotions are going to rise. And no matter how clear you are, now it's about the emotions. It's not about the task that you're asking for help with. Now, sometimes in the moment might not be the time to ask. When I walk into the kitchen, I see the toast crumbs on the counter and I get really frustrated. That's probably not the best time to ask him because right then it won't come across very well because I will be frustrated and a bit angry and all of the feels, and those are going to come through when I ask. So in a situation like that, it's probably best to wait until later and say, hey, I noticed earlier a way that you could help me out. And then by then I've calmed down and been able to take the emotion out of it and lead with caring. So I just wanted to say hi to Lori. Lori hopped on. So good to see you, Lori. Welcome, welcome. So another way that you can help your family to help you more is to keep a shared list. There are a lot of times where we ask for something specific that we need help with, but it might not be the perfect time for the person to just go and do that right away. And it's very easy because they're busy too. Remember, they've got probably just as long of a to-do list as you do, or it feels just as overwhelming and long. We're not comparing to-do lists here. But if you write it down and share that list of things that would be really helpful, then that will be a lot easier for them to refer to when they have time. And this is something that I know Jeff and I struggled with for quite a while because he resists with every ounce in his soul and in his body. He resists lists and structure. It's just not who he is. But he did finally realize that, yes, he was forgetting anything that I asked for. And then I would feel frustrated and resentful because I'd have to ask again and again. And of course, it was never at the time that he could do it. So after a while, he did come to realize, okay, well, a list is not the worst thing in the world. And I'm not telling him he has to do it all right then. It's simply a request. But that came through removing emotion and communicating clearly for a bit. But having a shared list means that both of you could work off of the list of things that would be really helpful to do. Like our list right now has pressure wash the shed because it's getting really gross looking, clean the outside windows, brush the cat. And that's one that I ask him to do because I love our cat, but I'm very allergic. So I can handle him well when he's been brushed often. But if I have to brush him, then that means the rest of the day I'm going to be all puffed up and stuffy. So I will do it if I have to, but I appreciate him doing it. So those are things that are on the list. Now with Jeff and I, we use a digital list because he's such a tech guy and he loves having that list in an app. So we use Todoist, Todoist, which is a digital list. There are a bunch of really good ones out there, like the Cozy, COZI Family Planner, Remember the Milk, things like that. You can also just have a written list. I know I do better with written lists, so sometimes I'll have my own written list as well. But by keeping that shared list, then everybody knows all of the different tasks that would be useful. They can do them on their own timeline, so they don't have to worry about forgetting. And when they have time, they can hop over the list. And it's made a huge, huge difference for us because there are definitely times where Jeff has some downtime and wants to help. And he won't remember necessarily the ways that I asked for help in that moment. So he'll do things that I'm like, wow, didn't need to be done, but thanks. Too bad you didn't do this. Now he knows exactly what would help me the most. Lori says, thanks. You're so welcome. Hey, Renee. Good morning, Sherry. And I see Lori says, our husbands might be brothers. You had me at he resists. Oh, yes, it took years to get past that resistance. We'll talk a little bit about how some of that resistance got broken down, but amen. They probably are brothers because resistance, I think, is his middle name. Sherry says, a common shared list alleviates the need to read others' minds. Absolutely, right? Even I appreciate having things written on a list because I have so much going on in my brain. The last thing I need is to try to remember other things from other people in my brain. So a list does help, and that helps communicate clearly. If it's on a list, then it's clearly communicated. Nobody can say you never told me, right? Another thing is to have open discussions. So there are times where when we're communicating things that we need, the other person might not understand the reason behind the need, or they might be feeling overwhelmed themselves, or they might have some frustrations because this is a two-way thing. Just because we need help does not mean that they don't also need help. And with Jeff, a lot of times he does not need help with tasks. He needs help, like he needs a hug. That's something I forget to do because I'm not a very high touch person and he is. So he gets re-energized by a nice long hug. And for me, I'm like, oh, I've got things to do. Like, I don't want to stop for like a whole minute and just hug. But it's so important to him. And I do enjoy hugging him. It's not a bad thing. So it slows me down in a good way. But having open discussions, again, removing the emotion. So don't do this during like that high conflict feeling time, but having those open discussions about, hey, these are the types of things that help me. This is why it helps me. Even things like pressure wash the shed, it would just really help me because, whenever I look in the backyard, I see the shed and it's covered in like all the green mildewy stuff that comes up after a while. And it weighs on my brain because to me, it's like one more thing to do. So having that done would just relieve that whole pressure of that there's one more thing to do. It can also, when you have those open discussions, that's when you find where those imbalances are. Because there have been so many times where I've opened up a discussion and I found out, oh, I had no idea, but at work, he is absolutely overwhelmed right now. I thought that things were going one way for him, but right now, like mentally, he's at his limit. But the project is going to end in 2 weeks. So at that point, he's mentally going to have some more bandwidth. So then I don't mind as much pulling a little bit more weight, knowing that, okay, in 2 weeks, he'll be feeling a lot more balanced. He'll have more mental capacity. Then maybe he can help me out more. And those open discussions are where all of that happens, because those are things that we don't think to bring up all the time. And then probably one of the most important things that you can possibly do, which is also sometimes one of the hardest, is have an attitude for success. So if we've gotten into a rut and we've been asking for help over and over and not getting it, maybe we've done all the right things. We've communicated clearly, we've removed emotion, we've shared a list, and it's just not working and not working. A lot of times we can come at these requests and discussions with an attitude of failure, where we ask, but it's not intended. Sometimes it is intended. Sometimes it's not intended, but it comes across as, I'm asking, but I know you're not going to do it. Or I'm asking, but I know you always do it wrong. If you come at these requests with even the thought in your mind of they're not going to do it, or they're going to do it wrong, and I'm going to have to do it anyways, or it's going to be a big fight, that's going to come through with your request. And you're going to build up resentment before they even get a chance to succeed. So as hard as it is, it takes a lot of breathing and a lot of rethinking and stepping back and choosing new thoughts. But come at each request as though it's the first time you've ever asked them for help, and you have no reason to believe that they won't support you and be successful in it. So if you ask with an attitude for success, that will open them up to want to succeed. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've had this happen before with school teachers or an old boss that I had a conflict with, where we just never saw eye to eye. And there were times where the request was asked, but in a way that I felt that they'd already decided what I was going to do and how it was going to work out. And the last thing that I wanted to do was give them what they just asked for, especially me. I'm quite the rebel. I don't act like it. You would not know this, but I'm quite the rebel. So if somebody were to ask me for something and have that expectation or that judgment with it that I'm not going to succeed, then there is no way that I want to do anything for them. So the attitude that you have, even if you don't think it shows, it does. And sometimes it takes multiple times of coming at something with the attitude for success before that perceived judgment changes. Because if we've had somebody, nagging us and judging us and expecting us to fail for so long, it takes a while before that perceived judgment changes. So you might need to keep coming at things with an attitude for success and with a lot of grace repeatedly before that shift starts to happen, but it does start to happen. And that's something that I had to work on with my own communication too, because I fell into that trap with moose pie and it did not help. It just made things worse and worse and worse until I realized what I was doing. And then it took a while of that attitude for success before the judgment that he would just assume is there, before he realized it was no longer there. So coming at things with that negative attitude It's kind of like taking money out of that emotional bank account over and over and over. Well, to rebuild that emotional bank account, that's a series of deposits you're going to have to make back in order to build it back up. It's not an overnight thing. So that's probably one of the bigger ones, is that attitude for success. Really quickly, hey Rita, good to see you. I see Joanna's here. Rosela's here as well. Doreen, the Doreen James. This is Jamie, she says, in Orlando. Hi, Jamie. I like the name, the Doreen James. That's fun. And I see Eloise is here. Welcome, welcome. As we talk, if you have any questions, any comments, let me know, and feel free to share this video. I love it. If you have anybody that you think that this would help, if you know somebody who's struggling to get their family to help, share this video with them if you think it would be useful, because that just helps us all. And yeah, that helps me to be able to produce more videos like this. So just to recap, ask for what you need. Remember, when you're asking, the key to a good ask and a successful ask is, first off, you need to communicate clearly what and how they can succeed. Remove all emotion from the ask. Do not come at it during that high emotion time. Keep a shared list so they know exactly what they can do to help, even if it's not right in the moment. Have open discussions and listen to them too. So open discussions on both sides about what would help, how everybody's feeling, what the workloads are, all of that. And have an attitude for success. So that way, that judgment and all of those built up emotions can start to disappear. And we can start to build that emotional bank account back up with them. And that would then most people are much more willing to help when they feel like there's no judgment or expectation for failure behind it. So that's part one, asking for what you need. Will it be an instant success? For some people, yes. For a lot of this, it will not be instant. This is something where it does take time and it takes repeating and patience. Patience is not one of my virtues. So this is something that I worked very hard on myself, but it was absolutely worth the work. So if you are enjoying this, if it's resonating with you, if you agree, if you disagree, hit the like, hit the heart button. Just let me know. Give me some reactions so I know. And remember, if you're a caregiver, I do have the full webinar on specifically for caregivers, how to get things done and get more assistance and all the tools and resources to just make it easier to keep track of everything and stay on top of it. So stop by the store tab on the SuzannaKaye.com website, and that's where you can find that. But that is tonight. All right. Before we head into the second point, I wanted to say hey to Renee. Good to see you again. Welcome, welcome. Actually, I think it might be your first time. I'm not positive. I think you might have a new profile picture, possibly. I never know. The pictures are so small, but welcome. Either way, let me know if this is your first time or if you have a new profile picture or something, or maybe my eyes are working better today. So, and BT says, this is great information. That's awesome. I'm so glad. I love to hear when something resonates with you, so I know more of what to talk about. Lori gave me some hearts. Love it. Thank you, Lori. You know it. All right. So we already talked about asking for what you need. When you have a need, make it easy for people. All right. When it's really difficult to complete the task, it's also less likely that people are going to do it. Even if they know exactly what it is that you want, even if they know exactly how to get it done, we are all busy. Every single one of us, in our own way, no matter what that structure is, we are all busy. Okay. So if it's hard to complete the task, then it is less likely to be completed either at all or in a way that is truly helpful. So these are some ways to make it easier for your family to complete these tasks. And when it's easy, you find you have to ask a whole lot less. So that's nice too. So the easier we make it, the more often they will do it on their own without even asking. So first off, making it easy, use labels. So for example, in my linen closet, I had the linen closet nicely organized and nobody was putting things away right. So whenever I'd go for a sheet, this was back when we had multiple sized beds in the house. I could not find the sheets that I needed because, we'd have a twin sheet set on top of a queen sheet set, and it would just, I was happy that the sheet sets were at least together, but it made it much harder for me in order to do what I needed to do. So it was frustrating. But as soon as I added some labels, it got a lot better. So using labels means that people know not only where to find things, but where to put them back. As soon as I added labels to the linen closet, such as twin sheets and queen sheets, and then I had in the little bins, I had our bin of dental care and I had our bin of eye care, then people were putting things back in the right places and they were not asking me as often where to find things. So using labels helps everybody. Another thing is reduce the clutter. So if you, we'll keep using the linen closet example. If the space for all the queen sheets is completely full and overstuffed, it's not likely that your family is going to try to put that other queen sheet in that area. They're probably going to stuff it wherever is easy, on top of the towels, on top of the twin sheets, in the dental care bin. They will just stick it wherever it's fast and easy because it's too cluttered. So by reducing the clutter in these areas, you can make it much easier for them to put things away where they need to go. And when I say reducing clutter, that means not only does it mean, getting rid of anything that's excessive that you really don't need that many of. Sometimes you do need that many of it. So maybe you need to reorganize and find a different space where there's enough room to easily get things in and out of. So for example, the queen sheets, if I could not let go of any of them because we actually needed all of them, then maybe moving them to their own shelf where there's more space would work. And then maybe getting rid of something else or relocating something else in order to make that room. In our case, we had too many sets of queen sheets because we bought new and never gotten rid of the old. So I was able to let go of some of those. And then there was space in that area and they more often put things away where it needed to be. Another way clutter can block people from helping is if you have too much stuff in the way of where things go. So when the dental care bin was overflowing and in front of the eye care bin, you better believe nobody was putting anything back where the eye stuff went. It was just getting put away because moving this big old dental care bin, they were not even noticing where the eye care bin was. The dental care bin was really full, cumbersome. There was a lot of clutter in front of that eye care. So putting things away where they went for the eye stuff was not easy. So it was not getting done. As soon as they went to their own shelves and I reduced the clutter in the dental care bin, that is when they were able to put things away in the right place better. So the less clutter you have, the easier it is for people to put things away where they need to go. You don't need to use lids on your bins because that makes it harder for people to access if they have to pull things out and take off the top and put something in. The more you can use open top bins, the better. All of that good stuff. So we want to make sure reduce clutter as much as possible. And like I just mentioned, make it easily accessible. So don't use lids when you can avoid it. If you do have to use some containers with lids, don't stack 4 containers on top of each other because it never fails that what they need is going to be in the bottom container. So when they're in a hurry, they're less likely to, move all the containers and take that out, or they're going to knock them all sideways and make it all wonky. Try to keep things lower stacks, even if that means adding more shelves. So your shelves are narrower. Having a stack of 2 bins, much more likely for people to pull things out and put things back in correctly than for 5 bins tall, because that makes it very difficult. Try not to stick things that are used often way in the back. So having the eye care stuff way in the back, Not very helpful. They weren't able to put stuff back in there very well. So now way in the back is where our guest room supplies are, all that extra guest stuff, because that's rarely used. So that could be in the back so that the stuff that we're using all the time can be up front. Keeping things where people use them. So having scissors only in the kitchen, not so helpful, because then I would find the scissors all around the house because they'd go to the kitchen, grab them, but never put them back. Each room has a pair of scissors. So that way they can easily use it and put it back where it goes. And that way we don't need as many pairs of scissors because we aren't losing them all the time, right? So make it easily accessible for them. So real quick, okay, it's not just me. It is Renee's first time seeing me live. So glad to see you. I'm glad that I'm not just losing my mind. Welcome, welcome. Lori says, this is so helpful. And perhaps you and I are sisters, as several of your self-proclaimed struggles are on my personal list too. I'm glad it's not just me. We are all so human here, right? And we should just celebrate our crazy humanness. We can't help it. We're just human. Renee says, great info. Yay. BT says, I have scissors and tape in each room. Absolutely. Scissors, tape, trash cans. I have a trash can in every single room, even if it's little. So that way there's not trash laying around. There's so many things. If it's used in every room, go ahead and just keep one in each room, and it's going to make it so much easier. You won't be looking for stuff as much. So as a recap, so far we talked about asking for what you need, being super clear, removing the emotion, having discussions, having an attitude for success. And then we talked about making it easy. So you want to make sure to use labels so people can easily find and put back what they need. Reduce clutter so that way it's easier to put things in and take things out. Moose Pie loves his t-shirts, and his t-shirt drawer is overflowing. So if I do laundry, I don't put away his t-shirts. I fold it and I leave it on top of his dresser because it's just too cluttered. Make it easily accessible, because if they can't easily reach it to put it away, then they're also human. It's much easier to just stick it aside and procrastinate and say that you'll do it later and not actually do it later. So you need to make sure to make it easy for people to succeed, and then they are more likely to do so. The easier, the better. Now, if you're not already subscribed on YouTube or on Facebook for when I go live, then make sure to subscribe right now really quickly while we're talking. I would love to have you follow me, and then you can get notifications of whenever I'm going live. I'm not sure what that means. Emma, if you could explain VOI. I'm not familiar with that. So let me know. And BT says, yes, trash cans and clocks. Now during the pandemic, I have Lysol wipes, tissue, and disinfectant spray in each room. Those are really good to have in each room too, because they're much more likely to use them if they're available, right? I love it. All right, so those were the first 2 points. The third one, and this one again is hard, but so important. And one that I struggled with is appreciate and be reasonable. So when we have more difficult family dynamics, or this has been a building frustration for a long time, then it can be really hard. And sometimes you can't even ask for help without a negative reaction to begin with, because that emotional bank account, that relationship emotional bank account is drained, or never really had much to start with, because maybe you're just very different personality types. So there are times where the best first step is simply to lead by example. You don't have to ask for help. You don't have to nag. You don't have to say a thing. Lead by example by doing the various things in the way that you would like others to help. You still need to make it easy. So if you reorganize the linen closet, add the labels, make sure that it's decluttered and accessible, then make sure when things need to be put away, you're putting things away in the right place each time. Make sure that if you want them put away in a specific way, that you're putting them away in that specific way each time. And when you're not nagging and you're not even pointing it out, they'll start to see it. This works really well with teenagers too. Then the pressure from nagging is taken off because they don't feel like you're asking them to do it. And it's simply okay, there's no pressure. I see she's doing it. It's super easy to do. I'll just start doing it too. And when you lead by example and things start to look better and better, then they might realize that things are starting to look better and enjoy that and want to help contribute to keeping them better. It's not the easiest thing to do, leading by example. We don't always want to be the only one doing it for a while because it takes a while. Leading by example is definitely not an overnight thing. It might take time. But if there's a difficult family dynamic, or if that relationship, emotional bank account is at or near empty, starting off with leading by example and making things easy is going to help so much. And then once that bank account has been filled up a little bit and that fear of nagging and judgment and expectation has been alleviated a little bit, that's when the communicating clearly and asking for what you need will be more effective and received better. So lead by example, even though it might take time. Jamie says, those who can't do, yell at everyone else. Right? And you know what? That leads right into my next thing. And this is something that I used to do all the time. Don't ask others for anything that you wouldn't achieve yourself. I love that quote, though. That's perfect. But one of the things that I would not even realize that I was doing, but I would get frustrated when I would ask Jeff to do something a certain way, such as, wipe the crumbs from the toast off the counter when he makes toast. And I'd gotten into this habit of getting really frustrated every time I saw the crumbs and saying again, you didn't wipe the crumbs off the counter. You didn't wipe the crumbs off the counter. And then one day I realized, I walked in and, I wiped the crumbs off the counter again. I was all mad and frustrated. And I was about to tell him, you didn't wipe the crumbs off the counter. And I realized, those are my crumbs. I didn't wipe the crumbs off the counter. And then when I really thought about it, I thought, you know what? I don't think I always wipe the crumbs off the counter either. Sometimes I forget when I'm really busy. So I was asking and expecting him to be good at it every single time. And I wasn't. There were some things that I was expecting him to do, such as, I'd get frustrated when he'd leave anything in the sink. I'm not always able to put things away right away into the dishwasher either. So I was asking him for things that I can't always achieve myself. So being realistic, that was really helpful, and realizing if I expect people to forgive me when I'm having a rough day and it's super busy, or I just simply am distracted, I really need to do that with him as well. So don't ask others for anything that you would not achieve yourself. Don't ask them to do something that realistically you would not do if you were physically able to but did not have the time. If washing the windows on the house, if that's not something that you would really even do, maybe don't even ask them to do it if they're overwhelmed and it's a struggle. Maybe you just let it go until it's something that is bad enough that you would do. Yeah. So Lori says, I want things put back where they belong and do this often, but hubby likes to leave things where he finished using them, but he can never find what he needs. Yep. So depending on that emotional bank account where you're at, leading by example might be one thing that's really helpful. But a lot of times I do find that having that open discussion really helps, because then you could find out, is it that when I know a lot of people think the job is done when the task is finished, not the job is done when the task is finished and you've put everything away. So reframing when the job is done to the job is done when everything's also put away, that is just a mindset difference. So when you have those open discussions, maybe he just thinks about it differently. Maybe he does not find it easy to put those things away. Maybe they're very difficult to get things put away right. Maybe he forgets. maybe he thinks he's going to come back to it later, or maybe he does not understand how much it stresses you out to see those things and how much extra work it adds, because if you're then the one putting it away, maybe he just really did not connect the dots that, okay, well, now that's one more task for her. So that open discussion is a really good first start without the emotions and all that. If you're at a place where your emotional bank account is where it could be a healthy discussion. Leading by example is super important with this. Also making it easy. So if he takes things out and he can't put them back because either he doesn't remember where they go or it's not easy to put them back, making it as easy as possible can help too. And again, that's one of those things. A lot of times it just takes time, because if that's been his habit all of these years, then it's not easy to change overnight. So there are several ways to do it. But yeah, hopefully one of those will help, or all of those. Julie says, thank you. These are wonderful suggestions. You're so welcome. Jamie says, I'm a walking tornado, so I often don't have the right to ask for anything. That is so funny. But you know what? You do have the right to ask. Some of us struggle more with keeping it all together. We simply are not wired from birth to do that well. I wasn't. I was an absolute mess from birth. And it's something where it took me a very long time to be able to build up the habit. And while trying to build up the habit, things would get so out of control that it made it harder for me to build up the habit. Because when it's out of control, it's not easy for me to put things back together, and I don't feel successful. So sometimes the ask might be, hey, I'm really working on this for myself, and I know I'm not good at it, and I know I'm failing at this often. Could you help me by, maybe focus on one room at a time? Could you help me by doing these tasks in the kitchen as I practice habits in the kitchen too? And I know I will fail a lot, but I could really use extra help in the kitchen until I build those habits up. And that's a great ask. I know I have asked, I have ADHD, and sometimes it's worse than others. And my ask has been, hey, Jeff, I'm trying really hard here to give the dogs a walk every day. And I'm failing at it because consistency and routine is really, really hard for me. And I don't know if it'll ever get better, but I am trying. Could you help me in taking on certain days of dog walking? So at least it relieves the pressure for me as I try to build this habit and see if I can ever become good at it. And if I never do, then maybe we can readjust then. That was my ask because, I was terrible at it. And I felt like I couldn't ask him because if I couldn't do it and I wasn't doing it right, then why should I expect him to? But you know what? He's better at those habits. He's not great either. I mean, we're very similar, but he's better. So you absolutely have the right to ask, but just ask from that human side of you and give yourself grace too. Don't beat yourself up over it, but be honest and say, you know what? I know it's not looking good from my side either. And that's why I could use some extra help. So hopefully that helps you out. And you are not alone in that one. That was one that I struggled with for a very long time. BT says, I had a problem keeping socks together when my sons were young. I put socks in the wash with diaper pins. I've heard of that one before. Yep. Now my grown sons use safety pins for their socks in the wash. I was leading by example. You know what? Leading by example in that way actually helps so much with kids because they don't even think about it. They just continue on what they saw you do. And it's such a gift to give to them. I love that. For me, one of the things that I used to do was only buy one type of sock. So that way, that one type of sock, if I lost one, then all of the others matched it too. So I went through that phase. And then I also went through, you know what? I'm only going to buy fun socks and have mismatched socks on purpose and wear one of one design and one of another. So if one got lost or when I was matching up the laundry, then it didn't take so long. So there are definitely some workarounds. And by showing our kids what those options are, including the diaper pins, I think that's awesome. I love that. All right, so click the heart or the thumbs up if you're enjoying this to let me know what you think about it. But let's continue on with number 3. So number 3 was appreciate and be reasonable. We already talked about leading by example, right? And it takes time. We talked about not asking others to do anything that you would not achieve yourself. We also really need to remember that perfect is not the goal. When we are feeling frustrated and like everything around us is falling apart, it's so common to want to control even the smallest area and to lean towards perfectionism and, wanting maybe the cans to be all lined up perfectly in the cabinet. Or my perfection issue that I had to work on was how the dishwasher was loaded. Because in my brain, I could see, like, my brain thinks of efficiencies naturally, thankfully. I could see how the way the dishwasher was loaded, you could fit twice as much in there and get it so much better cleaned if it was laid out differently. And I fought that battle for a long time, trying to say, okay, no, the bowls go here, the plates go here. I tried explaining why. I tried after it was loaded, I'd go in and rearrange things. All of that backfired on me. I was going for perfect. Perfect is not the goal, though. You know what? So what if it's not the most efficiently loaded dishwasher? So what if it's not maximized as far as how it cleans, as long as it's getting clean, right? So what we're aiming for, especially when we're asking for help from our family and they're starting to help in different areas for the first time, is we're asking for better than it was before. That is a win. If we are trying for perfectionism, that kills any desire of theirs to help us. So when my husband he took over loading the dishwasher at night, because he's a night owl, I'm a morning person. By nighttime, I'm exhausted. The last thing I want to do is load a dishwasher. Well, whenever he would load the dishwasher, if I would then go and adjust things afterwards or tell him he was doing it wrong, he did not want to help, and he was not very happy about loading that dishwasher, and it caused a lot of conflict. And I can't blame him. Looking back, I'd hate me too for that one. So once I adjusted my mindset and was able to take myself completely out of that task and say, you know what? At least I'm not the one loading the dishwasher. And I can mark that off of my list of things to care about and just trust that it's going to be done. If something comes out dirty, okay. So I'll set it aside. He can hand wash it or reload it. That's his problem. He can deal with the consequences of loading the dishwasher in a way that's not as effective. He can deal with doing 2 loads of dishes because it's not loaded in a way that he could get more in. He's an adult. That's his thing. That's fine. When my stepdaughter first started making her own bed, it was a disaster. She was terrible at it. I mean, to be fair though, she was like 7. So her bed is never really, really nicely made. That is okay. As she's gotten older, she's gotten better at it. I've taught her some tricks as she's gotten better at different skills. So it's gotten better, but I'm not going for perfect. I'm going for, is the bed made? It's made. Perfect. So if we are trying to get people to do things exactly the way that we want it done, and remember, there's not only one way to do it. If we're trying to get it done one way that is our perfection way, then that is extra hard for people to do and achieve at. And it kills their desire to want to help us. So when you're asking for help, let go of how that help happens. Look at the result. Say, did it get done well enough? Was it good enough? And if it was good enough, count it as a win and appreciate them for it. Danielle gave a bunch of hearts. I love it. Emily says, don't let perfection get in the way of execution. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great quote. It is so true. And Jamie says, that's how a lot of jobs became mine. No one else did it right. Read my way. Exactly. There is no actual right way. If there was a right way, then the entire world would agree on one political system and one religion and one way of doing everything. but there's not. There's not necessarily one right way. There's a way that we all believe is right in our hearts, but somebody else might believe differently, and that's okay. So if it gets done, and if it's good enough to achieve the goal, bed is made, dishes are washed, whatever it is, perfect. It is a win. So ditch any perfectionism and try, when you're leading by example, not to try to make things super perfect yourself either. If you can allow imperfection when you're leading by example, then they can see that that perfection bar is not there for them either. And then appreciate the imperfect in order to motivate them. Once I started appreciating that the dishes were done and that I did not have to do them, that's when he was even more motivated to try to figure out better ways to do it and to help me with things like putting my cup and my lid near each other. And he felt happy to be helping versus like it's another chore. I mean, I'm sure that there's still plenty of nights where it feels like a chore, but there are also plenty of times where he realizes that he's helping and that makes him happy. So the more we appreciate even the imperfect jobs, and especially the imperfect jobs, the more motivated people will be to help us out. They just want us to be happy, right? They just want things to be smooth and easy. They want the house to feel cleaner too. They might not even realize it, but when it is, they probably feel better. So we're all on the same team and we all have the same goal. We're just going different paths. And remember that if it is imperfect, and I mean like wildly imperfect, it'll get better over time. Because you might have been doing, loading the dishwasher for the past 20 years and they've not done it so much. So they've not learned that when you put the dishes too close together, the water does not get there as much. They'll figure it out. If they don't, then that's okay. They'll hand wash some dishes, whatever their choice is. But it will probably get better over time if you just leave it and only give advice in a loving, constructive way when you see that they're struggling and that it could truly help them, not this is how to do it. So Jamie says, my adult son and my husband basically learned they can't do anything right. Yeah, I did that. I did that to my family too. And it took a lot of appreciating imperfection and taking myself out of the task and out of overseeing the task and trusting them to do it to refill that emotional bank account with them. But it's possible. And you know what? At first, it was excruciatingly painful, trusting that the dishes would be done in a way that I felt it needed to be done. After a while, though, it felt so freeing because now at night, I ask him, did you run the dishwasher? Because sometimes he'll forget to start it, but I don't check it. I don't worry about how it was loaded. I don't worry about if something comes out dirty. I'm able to let it go. And that's one less thing on my mind. It took me some time to be able to let it go mentally, but it's amazing once you do. So it's a gift, not only for them, it is such a gift for yourself. And I have a feeling the more you can let that go and try it with a few things, but the more you do that, I have a feeling the more successful you will be at keeping everything together because you will have less on your mind and feel less like you have to control everything. And it will be easier to keep things together because perfection makes everything harder. So you've absolutely got this and it's reversible. Don't worry. Rosila says, thank you. These are all great suggestions. It helps to have someone else say it out loud and remind us of better ways to approach what can be a sometimes sticky and or stressful situation when asking for help from our family members. Amen. Julie says, I never asked for help because everyone is so busy. Now I have a knee injury and really need some help, but I feel guilty for asking. So Julie, why? Why are they busier than you? Why do they deserve more grace than you? Why don't you deserve it just as much? So think about that for yourself. If it can be expected of you, then it can be asked of other people. Yeah, that's very common. We don't want to burden other people. And I've fallen into that one too, but I'm busy too. And I count just as much as they do. and they want to support me just like I want to support them. So try it out. Ask for one thing, see what happens. Then ask for two, then ask for three. Try not to ask for all things because it can become addictive. Lori says, I keep reminding myself progress, not perfection. Really good one. Jamie says, natural consequences make an excellent teacher. They make the best teacher. I could nag all day and night, but if he has to rewash dishes, he's going to remember that better. Karen says, I'm the dishwasher. Yeah, I'm the cook. I'm the cook. He's the dishwasher. But yep, Jamie, but it's definitely hard to step back and let them happen. It really is. It really is. But you know what? Not the end of the world. If a dish comes out dirty, even if it makes it into the cupboard, when we pull it out to eat, we'll find it and it'll correct itself over time. So that's definitely not one of those things that's a danger to us, right? So then finally, communicate appropriate deadlines. This is another one that I struggled with a lot because for me, when I think of something that needs to be done, my brain always wants it done right then. Or I had been that way for so long that then it became assumed that when I asked for something that I wanted it done right that moment. And then that was a problem because Jeff doesn't work quickly or in the moment. He's my slow and easygoing guy. So to feel that pressure of she wants me to jump and do this right now made him more resistant to helping. Once we had these open discussions, I realized how often I was setting my own mental deadlines on when things needed to happen that weren't necessarily necessary or reasonable. If I ask, hey, could you load the dishwasher? Does it have to be done now or in an hour? Would that work? An hour would probably work just fine. But, my tone and a lot of times my mental expectation was, hey, now. So that built up to everything is now. And then when there were things where I was asking for, hey, can you clean the shed? Of course, I don't mean now, but that's how he took it because that's what I'd built up. So communicating appropriate deadlines is important. Not everything needs to be now. So step back, think about it. Think, okay, does this have to happen right this moment? Or let them know, this doesn't have to happen right now, but maybe, before the end of the month, could you clean the outside of the shed? Or before we go to bed, could you load the dishwasher? And that's going to make it a lot easier on both of you. And then be honest with your gratitude. When you're thanking someone, feel it. And it might take a little bit of time to truly feel it deeply, but really try to feel grateful, even if it's not done the way that you want, even if it was a struggle, even if you feel like, thanks a lot, but I still need 20 other things. This is like one little thing. You know what? Let's rephrase. Let's truly be honest and grateful when we tell them thank you, because people can tell. You can feel it if somebody is saying thank you and they don't mean it. And it's going to affect you. The more you truly are honestly grateful about all the little things, the easier it will be to communicate without emotion, to have an attitude for success, and to do all the things. It's just going to make life easier. So as a final recap, we talked about with the, with appreciate and be reasonable. Our recap is we want to lead by example. Perfect isn't the goal. We want to communicate appropriate deadlines and be honest with our gratitude. So make sure, like I mentioned, if you know anybody else that this could be helpful for, share this video. I love it when you share my videos. And then let me know in the comments, which one of these 3 points will you try today? I would love to hear it, or which part of one of the 3 points. So just as a reminder, the 3 points. First off, ask for what you need. Clearly, without emotion, ask for what you need and be specific. 2, make it easy. If it's really hard for them to succeed or even know how to succeed, they're not going to. So the easier we can make it for them to access what they need, find where it goes, to succeed with you, the better. And then appreciate and be reasonable. Ditch perfectionism. Really appreciate just the fact that it's done. Let go of the how and appreciate the outcome and be honest with your gratitude. And also, if you are a caregiver, whether it's full-time, part-time, If you want to learn more tools and resources, more ways to track things, get things done, and have time for yourself to finish some of your own projects and find some time for yourself and get organized, join me tonight for the webinar, Caregiving and Organizing, How to Make Progress and Keep It All Together. You can find it at suzannakaye.com/store, or just click the store tab. When you get there, it's live tonight, and then there will be a replay afterwards. So if you can't attend live, then you will get a replay afterwards. It's $25 right now. After the event, it'll go up to $30 to buy the replay for a limited amount of time. So I hope that you can join me for that one as well, all of my lovely caregivers. So I see that Lori says that she is the cook and the dishwasher. Karen does 95% of the cooking. She loves that 5% break. Me too. Oh yeah, I sometimes pass it off. Lori says, I recommend the novel Unwrapping Christmas by Lori Copeland. The central character has a similar experience, and she worries who will do all the tasks she does to prepare for Christmas. Oh, that's good. Unwrapping Christmas by Lori Copeland. We'll have to check it out. Thank you. Jamie says, his effort, regardless of the result, makes me feel heard, and I genuinely appreciate that. Yay. And yep. And the more we say it and truly communicate that and feel it, the better and the easier it is, right? Lori says she's going to work on appreciate and be reasonable. And Sherry says, I'm in. I love it. I will see you tonight, Sherry. And I'll see the rest of you hopefully tonight. My Pathfinders, I'm going to hop over now to the campfire group, and we're going to talk about some of how to do this with papers. Because with papers, it's a very unique situation. So if you're one of my Paper Path members, then hop over to your Facebook campfire group, and I will be over there. Peg says, I had a boss who made you feel great when he said thanks, and another boss who sounded like he was reading a script, right? You can tell the difference. So mean it when you say thanks. Julie says today she's going to let go of perfectionism. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. I love you all so, so much. I will see you next Thursday for the next Thursday talk. And tonight, hopefully, I will see you at the Caregivers and Organizing webinar. You can still sign up at suzannakaye.com and then click on store. I love you. Make this week amazing and start doing that lead by example and asking for what you need. It's amazing what can happen. You got this, wonderful. I love you. Bye.